Am I the a-hole for not taking down my video? That was a gift from my best man? I have a sister that's 6 years older than me. So, for as long as I can remember, whenever something important was happening in my life, it often got overshadowed because of something related to my sister. It was like my big moments didn't really stand a chance. For example, imagine being super excited for your basketball game, where you might be starting for the first time or hitting a game-winning shot. You look into the stands to see if your parents are cheering you on, but instead you get a last-minute text saying, "Oops, sorry, we can't make it. Your sister isn't up for going out today." And it wasn't just sports stuff. Big life moments were affected too. Like my high school graduation, a once-in-a-lifetime event. You'd think that's a no-miss event, right? Well, I was gearing up to walk across the stage, get my diploma, maybe even throw my hat in the air. But then comes the oops, sorry message again because my sister had a tough day at work and needed support. This pattern didn't stop as I got older. Fast forward to one of the most important days of my life, my wedding day. I had met the most amazing person, and we decided to get married. Knowing my family history, I was pretty anxious about my sister possibly causing a scene or something that would prevent my parents from attending. I talked to my parents about this fear multiple times leading up to the wedding. My mom, probably trying to keep things smooth, reassured me repeatedly, "Don't worry, we wouldn't miss it for the world. Nothing will go wrong this time." But guess what? History has a funny way of repeating itself. On the morning of my wedding, instead of waking up to a day filled with joy, I woke up to a voicemail from my mom. She was apologizing because yet again, they couldn't make it. This time, the reason was that my sister's dog was sick, and she was too upset for them to leave her alone. You can imagine how heartbroken I felt, missing my parents on one of the most significant days of my life. To top it all off, there was a bit of unexpected excitement due to a friend of mine who's known for his sense of humor and pranks. He thought it would be hilarious to play a little joke on my wedding day. Without telling me, he grabbed my phone, coordinated with my fiancée, and filmed our wedding ceremony and reception. His plan was to post this video online as a sort of live wedding gift. My fiancée thought it was a cute idea and went along with it. I only found out about this whole scheme when I returned home from the celebration. It was a whirlwind of a day, filled with unexpected ups and downs, and while the video turned out to be a fun surprise that captured our special moments, the sting of my parents' absence lingered amidst the laughter and the cheers. Continuing the story from where we left off, after the wedding, despite the no-shows and surprises, we headed off to our honeymoon. We chose a peaceful lakeside cabin, a place so secluded it didn't even have cell service. This meant we were completely off the grid, unaware of anything happening back home. While we were away, the prank video my friend made started making rounds online. He had put it together with a sweet caption that highlighted how awesome he is, even though his own parents often missed his big moments, similar to how my parents had missed mine. The video itself was a montage of still photos from the wedding, shots of us with my wife's parents, me having a blast on the dance floor, and scenes of us cutting the cake. Normally, you'd see both sets of parents in these kinds of pictures, but of course, mine were missing. The soundtrack for this montage was the voicemail from my mom explaining why they couldn't make it, because my sister's dog was sick. It was a poignant contrast. The joy and celebration of the wedding day set against the backdrop of my mom's apologetic and somber message. When we returned from the honeymoon a week later, I was hit by a storm of reactions. My phone had blown up with hundreds of messages. Family members from both sides were urging me to take the video down. They told me my sister had been crying nonstop since the video went live, and that my mom was so upset she was refusing to leave the house, maybe for the whole year. This situation put me in a really tough spot. On one hand, the video was a humorous and lighthearted recap of our special day, meant to share our happiness and perhaps lightly rib the situation with my family. On the other hand, it had unintentionally caused a lot of pain and drama back home, affecting my sister and my mom deeply. Dealing with this fallout wasn't easy. I had to weigh the joy of my new marriage and the fun memories of our wedding day against the ongoing family drama that seemed to follow me even into this new chapter of my life. After returning from our honeymoon and settling into our new home with my wife, I finally checked my messages and saw all the pleas from my family to take down the wedding video. Despite the pressure, I chose to take some time before responding. I wanted to enjoy my early days of married life without getting pulled back into family drama. When I eventually got around to dealing with it, my dad reached out to me. He asked me to take the video down, explaining that the night of my wedding had just been a bad one for them, and he promised they'd make it up to us by meeting my wife, since they hadn't made it to the wedding. I was really frustrated by this point. I asked him straight up, "How do you plan to make up for missing my wedding? It's a once-in-a-lifetime event." His response was just a vague promise to make it up to me. That wasn't enough for me. I felt like they had consistently ignored my feelings about the whole situation with my sister, overshadowing my important moments. So I told him that I would only take down the video after he found a way to make up for missing my wedding. The conversation got heated, and we both ended up hanging up the phone to avoid saying things we might regret later. Looking back, I could have easily just deleted the video to avoid all this hassle, but at the moment, it felt important to stand up for myself. It was about more than just a video. It was about feeling acknowledged and valued by my family, something that had been missing for a long time. Now for the top comments. 1. Not to the a-hole. The truth hurts sometimes. And your parents and sister just got "we need your friend" is awesome. Please leave the video up. This, your friends manipulate their words. Your parents would have nothing to cry about if they hadn't done anything wrong. They skipped your wedding with one seriously pathetic excuse. Let them feel the effects of that. Your friend is the true MVP in this story. OP, keep that video up until the end of time. Your parents need to be reminded just how much they failed you and favored your sister. Your family doesn't like it. Lucky for you, you just married into a new one. 2. Not the a-hole. Not only would I leave it up, but would start a YouTube channel and add to it. You know, when you post holiday pictures with your mom speaking over it with, "Sorry, we can't make it," says he has a pimple. Or when you post baby pictures with mom/dad saying sorry, but says he is having a bad hair day. Post links here. Facebook, Twitter. Monetize it to make a nice nest egg and enjoy your life as the free. 3. Not the a-hole. They were finally called out on their blatant favoritism, and they obviously don't take it well. I'd hold off inviting them anywhere or to anything obscene, at least for a while. Don't make them your first priority when you clearly aren't theirs. Focus on your new wife and your absolutely awesome friend. They both sound like keepers. To be honest, my parents missing my wedding because my sister's dog was sick and she was sad would probably be no contact worthy for me, especially if my sister was 6 years older than me. If she was 4 and the family pet was dying, it may be understandable, but a grown woman needing both her parents to be consoled because her dog wasn't well. Jesus' blatant golden child/black sheep base going on their daughter gets pandered and spoiled since her birth to the point of her taking it absolutely for granted. Son gets neglected and emotionally mistreated to the point of him, knowing better than to expect anything from his parents at all. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister to adopt kids if she wants them so much? All right, let's go into more detail about the situation with my sister Hannah. She's 35 years old and had a really tough couple of years. Back in 2021, she went through a tough divorce that turned her world upside down, and she even ended up losing her house because of it. Seeing her struggle like this was hard, and since I have a stable job and a big enough house, I decided to help her out. So I invited her to live with me and my 2 daughters, who are 9 and 4 years old. The idea was for her to stay with us without paying rent, so she could save up some money and eventually find a new place of her own. Living together turned out to be pretty great for the most part. Hannah isn't just staying with us, she's become a big part of our daily lives. She helps out by paying some of the bills, something I didn't ask her to do, but she insists on contributing. She's also super sweet around the house, always ready to lend a hand with chores or whatever else needs doing. One of the best things about having Hannah with us is how much she loves my daughters, and they love her right back. Since she only works part-time, she spends a lot of time at home, which has turned out to be a big help for me. She stepped into the role of a babysitter, looking after the girls while I'm at work. This has been a huge relief for me financially because it means I don't have to pay for daycare or a nanny. However, this close-knit setup has led to a bit of an issue. I'm really happy that Hannah is so attentive and caring towards my daughters, but there are times when I feel like she's maybe getting a bit too involved. For example, she started to come along to all the school events for my eldest daughter. At first, I thought it was great that she was so supportive, but it became a problem when she began introducing my daughters as her own. This made things confusing, especially at school, where it's important for the staff to have clear information about family relationships. I had to talk to Hannah about this. I explained to her that while I appreciate how much she cares and wants to be involved, it's important to make sure that everyone understands she is their aunt, not their mom. This is to prevent any misunderstandings with the teachers and other parents, which could complicate things for my daughters. After our initial talk, things seemed to improve for a while, but then I encountered a new problem that took me by surprise. I found out from my new neighbors that they were under the impression that Hannah, my sister, was actually the mother of my kids. I was totally taken aback by this news. And then something even more upsetting happened. My youngest daughter, right in front of me, called Hannah Mom. I needed to understand what was happening, so I asked my daughter about it. Hannah tried to brush it off by saying that it's common for toddlers to randomly call women mama or men dada. But I knew something was off, because my daughter has never called anyone else mommy before. Later, while I was sitting down with my older daughter to help her with her homework, she opened up to me. She told me that her younger sister only called Hannah mommy because Hannah had asked them to do so when they were out in public. My older daughter was afraid to tell me this because she thought Hannah would get angry. Hearing this made me really upset. I confronted Hannah right away about what my older daughter had told me. Hannah's response was that I should be happy because she treats them well enough for them to see her as a second mother. This really frustrated me because it wasn't just about treating them well, it was about overstepping boundaries that shouldn't be crossed, especially without my consent. It's one thing to be a loving aunt, but it's another to encourage my children to call her mom and confuse their understanding of our family roles. This situation needed to be addressed to ensure that the boundaries were clear and respected moving forward. The situation escalated further during our conversation. Hannah argued that the girls were happy to have her as a second mom and that she simply loves kids. This comment, while perhaps meant to reassure, actually made me even more upset because it seemed to undermine my role as their actual mother. Caught up in the heat of the moment, I ended up saying something harsh. I told her that if she wanted children so much, she should consider adopting her own. This comment was particularly cutting because Hannah is unable to have children, a fact that was a painful part of her recent divorce. After our argument, I started receiving calls and messages from other family members. They were upset with me for what I said to Hannah, calling it cruel. I can't help but feel conflicted. On one hand, I understand their point and regret that my words may have hurt Hannah deeply. On the other hand, I felt it was important to express the seriousness of the situation and the impact of her actions on my children and me. This has left me in a tough spot. While I do acknowledge that my comment was hurtful and perhaps too severe, it also came from a place of frustration and a need to protect the boundaries of my relationship with my daughters. Moving forward, it's clear that Hannah and I need to have a more thorough conversation about our expectations and roles within the family. It's crucial for us to find a way to address these issues while maintaining respect and understanding for each other's feelings and limitations. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. 1. Not the a-hole. I've said it before on this sub, and I'll say it again. A family member on my boyfriend's side was like this with our daughter. The end result? She called the cops on me and tried to have my daughter removed and given to her. Nip it in the bud now, because our town is acting very weird. 2. Not the a-hole, for reasons like this, though she isn't a grandparent. If you end up kicking her out, the closer your sister is to them, she could end up trying to file some demand for visitation, like a grandparent's rights suit. She has crossed a line and clearly thinks she has done absolutely nothing wrong. Get her out before she gets enmeshed enough that a court thinks it is in the best interest of the children for her to have access to them. 3. Not the a-hole, and kick her out. She told Opie's kids to keep a secret from Opie, or else should get mad at the kids, even without the secrets being. You must call me mom. That's enough reason to not want her around. Kids, yes. The secret parts freak me out big time. Incredibly worrisome. I think sister needs to see a therapist about some stuff. It's terrible that she can't conceive. Plus, adding on to divorce to her mental load might have made her crack a bit. Until then, I go low contact, at least because that behavior is crazy nasty. Not the a-hole. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for siding with my mom over my wife and telling my wife it was her fault for putting me on the spot? So here's how my wife and I usually handle things. We always support each other when we're out and about, like at parties or family gatherings. If we disagree on something, we don't argue about it right there in front of everyone. Instead, we wait until we're back at home to talk things over quietly. It's like having a team strategy where we show a united front to the world, but we can still figure things out between us in private. Now here's where a bit of a situation came up involving my mom. She lives really far away, a whole 8-hour flight from where my wife and I live. So whenever she plans a visit, she doesn't just come for a weekend. She stays for around 4 to 5 days because it makes more sense after traveling so far. But here's the important part. My mom is the one who chose to move away from us a while back. When she did, my wife was very clear with her. She explained that since my mom made the decision to move, doesn't have young children to take care of, and has a job that lets her choose her hours, she should be the one who comes to visit us. My wife also mentioned that even though we love having her, we're not going to completely change our normal lives during her visits. We've got limited vacation time and we really want to save that for special trips or fun activities with our kids. So we made it clear we can't take time off just to entertain my mom when she visits. At first, this felt a bit strange to me, but I knew it made sense, so I agreed with my wife. The last time my mom visited, which was 3 years ago, we stuck to our usual routine. We both went to work every day, and my mom stayed at our house. Since she was alone most of the day, by the time we came back in the evening, she was super restless. It seemed like she was getting really bored and frustrated with being on her own so much. During my mom's last visit, we pretty much stuck to our regular daily routine. We did all the usual stuff around the house. My wife was really helpful and took over some of my chores so I could spend a bit more time with my mom. We had our typical dinners like we do on any normal weeknight. But despite this, by the end of her visit, it was pretty obvious that my mom was not having a good time. She was exhausted, unhappy, and for some reason, she wasn't eating much at all. She seemed really upset but didn't say anything about it, though you could tell she was annoyed. Then, the whole world got hit with COVID, and that made everything more complicated. Because of the pandemic, we all got super busy and just couldn't visit each other. Recently, we tried to mend things a bit by inviting her to come over again, but my mom flat out refused. She told us that her last trip felt like torture because we didn't really take time to host her properly. She said if we weren't going to make an effort, she'd rather not visit. I thought she had a point because she never really asked for much. She just chose not to put herself in that situation again. However, this really upset my wife. She wanted me to call my mom out for acting entitled. I didn't think that was the right move, so I didn't. But my wife went ahead and called my mom anyway, accusing her of being childish and needing constant attention. This blew up into a big argument where my mom shouted that we were terrible hosts, and she was so bored during her last visit that she actually cried one day. It was a messy situation, and it just showed how tough it can be to balance everyone's expectations and feelings. We were trying to keep our lives as normal as possible, but maybe we didn't consider enough how my mom felt being on her own so much. It's tricky, and it seems like we all have different views on how these visits should go. My mom made it pretty clear that she doesn't want to keep visiting us if things don't change because she doesn't feel super welcome. She's okay with us visiting her, though, so she's kind of left the door open for us to come over anytime we want. Then, things got a bit heated between my wife and my mom. My wife asked me if I was going to step in and do something about how my mom and she were getting along. My mom felt that my wife was being too harsh on her and wanted me to help calm things down. This put me in a really tough spot because my wife then asked me to pick a side, hers or my mom's. I ended up saying I was on my mom's side, and this caused a big reaction. My mom started laughing, maybe because she felt relieved or supported, but it wasn't a good moment for my wife. She got really upset, started crying, and then she hung up the phone. Now she feels like I've betrayed her, and she's pretty hurt. She even called me a mama's boy, which stung because I haven't actually seen my mom in 3 years. I tried to explain to my wife that it wasn't fair for her to make me choose sides like that suddenly. I also said that my mom has a right to decide not to visit if she feels like it's always a big hassle or if she's not feeling welcome. This whole situation is tricky because it feels like no matter what I say, someone I care about ends up feeling bad. We're kind of stuck trying to figure out how to make everyone feel okay without causing more arguments. It's like trying to keep all your friends happy at once. Someone always ends up feeling left out or upset, and it's really hard to make it right again. Now for the comments, if you want to plan things and host your mom with activities and great meals, what is stopping you? It seems to me like your wife doesn't want to be expected to drop all her responsibilities to plan, prepare, and be the host, a role that women have been conditioned to take automatically. I would also guess that your wife may feel daunted by what hosting usually means for her personal time off. Sure, but also planning activities, reservations at meals, cleaning and setting up guest room cooking/grocery shopping, ensuring the kids have the right balance of grandparent time, educational time, downtime, etc. That's stressful. If you want your mom to come have a conversation with your wife about how to ensure you can be welcoming and gracious hosts without overburdening your wife, meaning you take on more of these responsibilities because it's your mom, his wife. She runs Opie's life. We will never take the kids to visit your mother. We won't be taking any PTO during your mother's visits. We won't in any way alter our daily routines and will behave as if your mother wasn't here. Now that your mother has feelings have been hurt by my design, I will yell at her for having those feelings and taking steps to avoid a repeat. I will rub salt in the wound by instructing you to tell her that you agree with me. And I do now. I think there's more to the story. Clearly, the wife and mother-in-law don't have a good relationship, so there must be background as to why wife is being like this. If my mother-in-law moved away, I'd likely have the same restrictions in place. I'm not very confrontational, so it may not come across the same way, etc. But my mother-in-law is awful to me. She doesn't respect my boundaries. Erdogan's upset for my daughter. She has made racist comments about my appearance for years, and that's not something I'm comfortable existing about on a frequent basis. I'm also not going to go out of my way to go visit someone who makes me uncomfortable and feels then. I think the situation was handled poorly, and that there wasn't one particular person that's at fault here. But Opie is definitely an asshole. All of his mother's complaints are ones he could have solved if he wanted to, rather than shift the blame onto his wife. Everyone sucks here. Your mom navigated airports and getting to you. Is she incapable of renting a car using one of yours? Your mom was starving because she expected someone to shop and cook for her. She's acting super entitled, and that her visit required everyone to drop what they were doing for her. Sounds like she is high maintenance. And your wife had her number even before your mom moved away. I won't say your wife saying that you couldn't take time off when your mom visited was wrong. Maybe you don't take your 4-week off as PTA was precious, but a couple of days would have been inappropriate. She also was foolish to call your mom and argue with her instead of just leaving it alone. You are the a-hole because you denigrated your wife in front of your mother. Plus, not helping your mom have a better trip the first time around. We'll talk about all this later. Or let's end this call and speak again another time. Or a zillion other non-committal answers were better than saying, I'm on my mom's side. I'd go to counseling with your wife if I were you. Both of you have stuff to apologize for, but your mother is the biggest. They home? She's driving a wedge in and she knows it. And you fell for it. Last story. Am I the a-hole for being strict with one daughter and lenient with the other I-44? A female and a mother to two wonderful girls? So, my daughters Claire and Lucy, who are like two sides of a coin, each unique in their own ways. I'll call them Claire, who is 16, and Lucy, who is 15, just to keep things private. I care about them both a lot, but I don't treat them the same because they like different things and are good at different stuff. Claire, for example, struggles with schoolwork. She often gets low grades and finds it hard to stay focused. At first, we thought maybe she had ADHD, but it turned out that school just isn't her thing. That's totally okay. Not everyone is made for academic stuff. Lucy, on the other hand, is a star in school. She's always at the top of her class, pulling in perfect grades and a 4.0 GPA. Because she's doing so well, we've decided to do things a bit differently with her. We think she might end up going to a top university, so we're helping her make the most of her talents. For Lucy, that means lots of extra learning. We signed her up for a special math and robotics camp, and even have her start on homework for next year to keep her ahead. She's also involved in lots of activities outside school and competes in academic competitions. Since her schedule is so packed, we let her have more time on the computer to study and do her schoolwork. Claire has different plans. She's thinking about going to a trade school instead of university, which fits better with what she's interested in. We support her choice and let her spend more time hanging out with her friends, giving her the freedom to enjoy her teen years in her own way. So, while it might seem like we're treating them differently, it's all about helping each of them in the best way possible, according to what they need and what they're good at. We live in the Bay Area, so it is very competitive to go to university here, which is why we are pushing her so much. We know she will thank us later in life that we have given her a good environment to encourage her intellect. The problem is that Lucy and I got into a fight where she asked me why Claire is allowed to go out and do academic things, and I replied that the reason is because they don't have the same ambitions. Lucy got mad and told me I was favoring Claire over her, to which I replied that was not true. Truth be told, I love both of them equally. I want the best for both of them. But realistically, if Lucy doesn't spend her time preparing college apps, doing extracurriculars, and using her intellect, she's wasting it. While Claire doesn't need to spend as much time on her future, as there is much less uncertainty, I feel bad. And while I know I'm doing the right thing at a core, I feel like there might be something wrong with the way we have approached Lucy's education. Am I the a-hole? Edit. People are accusing me of abandoning Claire. Claire knows and agrees with this arrangement, as I have looked into options for community college or trade school with her. Her GPA is not good enough for any university and she knows it. I'm in no way insulting her. She is very much aware of her situation. She's very pragmatic and responsible. Now for the comments. No giving up on one daughter while micromanaging and pushing another is not treating them fairly. It is fine to treat your children differently as long as you treat them fairly. But you are not doing that. Your home putting all your expectations in one child while giving up on the other is terrible parenting. Opie. I was ready to say not the whole if you were pushing Claire to try and achieve more, but you already home a major one at that. Lucy is doing well in school, but you putting extra rates of academic responsibilities on her is going to result in her rebelling. It's better to give her some freedoms. Sit with her and discuss with her what her academic goals are. If they are to get into a top university like Harvard, then yes, tell her she will need to focus more on her schoolwork. But if she's hoping to get into another university, regardless of what the workload she's going to need for that, is an ask if she's willing to right now put that effort in. Lucy needs to be a part of this conversation and of how much time she's dedicating through schoolwork. Otherwise, she won't be able to fully understand its value and she will lose motivation, and her intellect will seem like a burden to her rather than a gift. Universities also like to look at people who have life experience focusing on school and extracurricular. It doesn't always pay off. Also, don't lose sides of her personal mental health.